Keith Urban transcends mere musicianship. He is a raw, elemental force, a masterful guitarist whose instrument emanates both refined grace and untamed passion. He represents the seismic shift that reshaped country music, injecting it with profound emotion, soulful authenticity, and breathtaking brilliance. This is a man who transformed deep-seated feelings into captivating melodies, eliciting tears and fervent cheers in equal measure from vast audiences. His ascent from the picturesque landscapes of New Zealand to the illustrious venues of Nashville was not that of a fleeting trend or a temporary sensation, but the rise of an enduring legend indelibly imprinted on the fabric of American musical heritage. His voice resonated across international borders. His talent was beyond dispute, and his charisma was effortlessly natural. Laden with Grammy accolades and a career that consistently pushed the envelope of country music, he has experienced a life many only dare to imagine. Radiant stages, a celebrated union with cinematic icon Nicole Kidman, and a veritable empire built on sound and commercial triumph. At the zenith of his career, he seemed invincible, unstoppable, and incandescent. However, today, with Keith Urban approaching his 60th year, his reality diverges significantly from the glossy persona that many still envision. The public perceives only the dazzling spotlight and pervasive fame. Yet, concealed from view lies a life profoundly marked by turmoil, adversity, crushing losses, and enduring emotional scars. In this exploration, we will delve into the poignant adversities he has privately borne for decades, unearthing poignant moments that may profoundly affect you. If you have ever held a fondness for or admired Keith Urban, kindly acknowledge this by pressing the like button. Your simple action serves as a tribute to an exceptional artist deserving of profound respect. Long before his name became universally recognized, preceding the awards and widespread acclaim, there was simply a young boy, delicate, sensitive, and exposed to life's tempestuous nature. Keith Lionel Urban entered the world on the 26th of October, 1967, in the New Zealand town of Whangarei. His earliest recollections were not of rapturous applause, but of constant upheaval, of ceaseless movement, of shifting foundations, and a deep-seated yearning for stability. By the tender age of 2, the Urban family had transplanted themselves to Kabul, Queensland, Australia, anticipating a fresh chapter. However, misfortune was to arrive with startling rapidity. At the age of 9, Keith was forced to witness, powerless, as his family's home was consumed by an inferno. Everything was reduced to embers: photographs, cherished toys, clothing, and nascent aspirations. The conflagration left them with little more than the attire they wore and the quiet benevolence of strangers. He would later recount that their sole remaining possessions were each other and the compassionate assistance of neighbors who arrived with donations of clothing. Yet, the external conflagration paled in comparison to the internal turmoil. Within the confines of their humble dwelling, a different form of devastation unfolded, one devoid of smoke, but leaving equally profound emotional wounds. His father, Robert Bob Urban, was a man of pronounced contrasts, a devoted enthusiast of country music, yet also an unpredictable alcoholic. The very father who nurtured Keith's initial engagement with the guitar also instilled in him a pervasive sense of apprehension. The atmosphere within their home was perpetually charged with instability. Keith himself once confessed, "I don't recall him ever expressing his love for me." These pronouncements were not merely sorrowful, they were utterly devastating. A child craving affection encountered only silence, anger, and physical aggression. Nevertheless, even amidst the pervasive gloom, glimmers of hope emerged. On one occasion, Bob placed a notice in the window of his convenience store, seeking a guitar instructor for his son. This represented a rare, fragile demonstration of paternal affection, and it fundamentally altered the trajectory of Keith's life. That notice led Keith to Sue McCarthy, the individual who would evolve into his inaugural mentor. At the age of 4, Keith was already strumming a ukulele. By 6, he held a guitar with the conviction of it being a protective shield. Music, from its inception, was not merely a pastime. It was a sanctuary, a lifeline. In a household governed by unpredictable emotional shifts and an unnerving quietude, the guitar provided him with a voice. It articulated what he could not express. It soothed what remained inconsolable. He found solace at musical gatherings, particularly the Tamworth Festival, and by collaborating with local performers such as Jenny Wilson, he began to garner accolades, including the highly esteemed Golden Guitar Award, marking him as a prodigy to the wider world. Yet, beneath the veneer of every ovation lay a young boy still struggling for breath. Throughout his adolescence, Keith performed in dimly lit pubs and bars, with his parents serving as his chauffeurs, transporting him between engagements. There, on stages that seemed too vast for his fractured spirit, he attempted to make sense of the surrounding chaos. The applause offered a fleeting comfort, but it never managed to silence the persistent void within. Music saved me, he would later articulate. It offered me an escape when home felt like no home at all. This quiet, unvarnished statement encapsulates his experience with profound accuracy. His childhood was not merely challenging, it was devastating, isolating, and profoundly unfair. However, it was precisely this crucible that shaped his very essence. Those formative years, the inferno, the physical confrontations, the neglected embraces, did not break Keith Urban. Instead, they forged him. They transmuted pain into poetry, injuries into rhythm, and silence into a powerful, resonant sound. And it is here, amidst the smoldering remnants of a boyhood he was never fully permitted to experience, that his true narrative commences, far removed from glamorous stages or celebrated Hollywood partners. Keith Urban's odyssey from a young musical prodigy to a globally recognized country music icon was neither swift nor effortless. It constituted an arduous, demanding journey, characterized by persistent rejection, unwavering resilience, and an indomitable spirit of faith. Following a childhood profoundly impacted by fire and fear, Keith's earliest public performances were a far cry from the glamorous spectacles of his later career. At the age of 8, he was already performing in seedy pubs and dusty fairgrounds across Queensland, Australia, his small hands clutching a guitar that dwarfed his frame. His parents, still grappling with the aftermath of losing their home and navigating their own personal struggles, effectively became his informal tour managers, driving him to performances in the hopeful belief that music might ultimately offer salvation for them all. In those early years, it was not the allure of stage lights he pursued, but the fundamental necessity of survival. By 15 years of age, his exceptional talent was undeniably evident. He possessed the dexterity of a virtuoso and the depth of someone who had lived through multiple lifetimes. Despite early television appearances on programs such as New Faces in 1983 and collaborations with singer Jenny Wilson that culminated in the prestigious Golden Guitar Award at Tamworth, Keith's recognition remained confined to the stages of small towns and local admiration. The grander platforms remained significantly beyond his reach. Deeply influenced by legendary rock artists like Mark Knopfler and Lindsey Buckingham, Keith began to integrate the distinctive twang of country music with the electrifying energy of rock, creating a sound that was uniquely his own, yet challenging to categorize. This inherent distinctiveness, while artistically compelling, presented significant marketing obstacles. Nevertheless, he persevered. In 1990, he launched his debut album in Australia under the EMI label, though its impact was minimal beyond regional audiences. For many, this would have signified the culmination of their aspirations. However, Keith Urban was not an ordinary individual. In 1992, he embarked on a daunting endeavor, departing from his homeland, his established support system, and any semblance of security to pursue his artistic aspirations in Nashville, Tennessee. This relocation was less a geographical move and more an act of profound personal conviction. He later reflected, stating, "I knew no one. I had no backup plan." Nashville, he found, greeted him with a palpable indifference. Opportunities did not simply present themselves. They were actively denied. He performed as a session guitarist for other artists, penned songs for them to perform, and consistently suppressed his pride. His band, The Ranch, formed in the mid-90s, demonstrated considerable promise but ultimately failed to achieve commercial success. The nights were protracted, rejection was a constant companion, and the lingering shadows of his childhood traumas continued to exert their influence. He once confessed, "I remember thinking, perhaps this path is not meant for me." Yet he refused to abandon his pursuit. He could not. Music had evolved from a mere aspiration into his essential lifeblood. Every deserted establishment where he performed, every song he penned for another, every unanswered telephone call served to fortify his resolve. His objective was not fame, but freedom. It was not until 1999, 7 years after his arrival in Nashville, that he finally released his self-titled American debut album. When the single "But for the Grace of God" ascended to the #1 position on the charts, the young man from Queensland, who had persevered through immense personal hardship, finally experienced the triumph for which he had so ardently strived. This was not merely a personal victory, it represented a profound rebirth. It marked the commencement of an extraordinary ascent, fueled not by chance, but by the transformative power of endured suffering and an unwavering determination to persist when every indication suggested otherwise. Fame did not arrive in a gentle manner. It erupted into Keith Urban's existence like a long overdue promise finally fulfilled. Following years of arduous struggle through anonymity and emotional desolation in Nashville, the turn of the millennium heralded a remarkable transformation. In 1999, Keith released his inaugural American solo album. With the profoundly emotive hit single, "But for the Grace of God," he definitively claimed his rightful place on the United States country music charts. This achievement was not a mere coincidence. It was a declaration of his arrival. The song's climb to the pinnacle of the charts signified the emergence of a new caliber of country music star, one capable of harmonizing rugged authenticity with raw emotional vulnerability and traditional country elements with electrifying guitar solos. From that juncture, his trajectory was not merely upward, it was explosive. In 2002, his song "Somebody Like You" dominated the Billboard Hot Country Songs chart, subsequently being recognized by Billboard itself as the most significant country hit of that decade. The global music scene had finally attuned itself to the distinctive sound he had cultivated over many years, a sound forged through adversity, self-doubt, and relentless ambition. However, the accolades of success did not erase the ingrained scars of his past. Rather, they illuminated them. Keith found himself grappling with the inherent paradox of fame. While adored by millions, he frequently experienced a profound sense of isolation. Behind the scenes, he contended with imposter syndrome and the persistent echoes of his past, which continually whispered doubts about his adequacy. Despite these internal struggles, he continued to produce album after album. The 2004 release, "Be Here," proved to be an immense success, generating multiple chart-topping singles such as "Days Go By" and "Making Memories of Us." By this point, Keith had transcended the classification of merely a country artist. He was actively redefining the very essence of the genre. His distinctive amalgamation of country, rock, and pop influences attracted a diverse audience, garnering him widespread critical acclaim and substantial commercial influence. His concert tours consistently sold out, and his albums achieved triple platinum status. Yet, what remained unseen by his audience were the private moments when he questioned his own worth, the days when past habits threatened to resurface with perilous intensity, and the unceasing pressure to continually surpass his previous achievements. Awards began to accumulate: 4 Grammy Awards, 15 Academy of Country Music Awards, and 13 Country Music Association Awards. Each accolade served as a testament to his extraordinary talent, but also represented the considerable weight of his journey. During this pivotal period, Keith also joined the esteemed panel of judges on the popular television competition, American Idol, from its 12th through 15th seasons. This transition opened him to an even broader viewership, highlighting not only his musical proficiency, but also his inherent kindness, sharp wit, and profound compassion for emerging talent. Despite achieving worldwide recognition, Keith remained remarkably grounded. In subsequent interviews, he candidly discussed the surreal nature of stardom, explaining how one could be enveloped by spotlights, cameras, and adoring crowds, yet still feel like that uncertain youngster from Kabul striving to validate his existence. By the middle of the 2000s, Keith's accomplishments extended beyond artistic acclaim. They became financial as well. His albums achieved millions in global sales, his concert tours generated tens of millions of dollars, and he ascended to the ranks of the highest-earning country music performers. The addition of television ventures, endorsement deals, and a highly successful line of signature guitars bolstered his wealth, ultimately elevating his estimated net worth to $75 million. Throughout these triumphs, he clung to the one constant that had never betrayed him: his music. It served as his grounding force, his salvation, and his escape route. Every note he played, every lyric he penned, resonated with the echoes of his past and the unyielding drive that propelled him forward. Keith Urban's ascent to superstardom was not a gentle, predictable progression. It was a series of hard-won victories wrested from the depths of rejection and self-doubt. His success wasn't defined by reaching the pinnacle, but by enduring the arduous journey required to get there. And just when it seemed as though despair would completely engulf him, a beacon of light emerged. It wasn't an overwhelming glare, nor a deafening sound, but a steady, gentle, and life-altering presence. That light was Nicole Kidman. Keith Urban had navigated through immense hardship, periods of isolation, and a profound solitude that seemed to permeate even the most dazzling concert halls. However, it was her presence that finally disrupted this cycle. Their encounter was far more than a mere romantic meeting. It was a spiritual awakening, marking the commencement of his profound transformation. While the world observed a celebrated couple falling in love, few understood that behind the scenes, Nicole was fighting for Keith's very life. And Keith, feeling broken and ashamed, yet deeply touched, finally reached for the unwavering hand extended to him. What unfolded transcended a simple marriage. It signified a complete rebirth. They first encountered each other in January of 2005 at a Hollywood gala, an event bustling with celebrities and the constant flash of cameras. Yet, amidst all the glitz and glamour, Keith could only recall one singular presence: Nicole. For Keith, it wasn't love at first sight. It was something far more profound, an undeniable magnetism. Nicole Kidman perceived beyond the fame, the music, and the public persona. She recognized the vulnerable man still in the process of healing. Keith would later confess that he waited 4 months before contacting her, immobilized by a potent mix of awe and insecurity. Their connection deepened in quiet intimacy, far removed from public scrutiny. Merely a year later, on June 25, 2006, they exchanged vows in a candlelit ceremony held in Sydney. To the world, it appeared as a fairy tale, but for Keith, it represented a lifeline. This new chapter was not without its challenges. Merely 4 months into their marriage, Keith experienced a relapse. The inner struggles he had so carefully concealed resurfaced. The individual who had commanded the stage before thousands found himself adrift in a sea of isolation. In a remarkable display of devoted courage, Nicole orchestrated an intervention. She meticulously gathered close confidants, consulted with addiction specialists, and confronted Keith with unwavering empathy. She made it unequivocally clear that her actions stemmed not from a desire for control, but from a commitment to his survival. He entered the Betty Ford Center in October of 2006. However, this time, a crucial difference was present. His motivation was no longer solely personal. It was fueled by the woman who steadfastly refused to abandon him, and by the aspiration to construct a life he had once deemed unattainable. In later interviews, Keith characterized that period as a profound spiritual renewal. "I truly began living when I married her," he shared, and those words are no exaggeration. Recovery brought him clarity, clarity gifted him purpose, and purpose paved the way for transformation. In 2008, they welcomed their first child, Sunday Rose, a daughter whose arrival Keith described as the most humbling experience of his life. In 2010, Faith Margaret was born, delivered via a surrogate. Fatherhood provided him with a profound sense of stability. The compulsion to escape pain through music or substances dissipated. It was replaced by a focus on presence, on love, and on becoming the man he had witnessed his own father struggle to be. Nicole, an icon in her own right, stood by his side not merely as a wife, but as a fellow survivor of his most profound struggles. She did not rescue him. She stood beside him in the crucible, supporting him until he found the inner fortitude to emerge. Their love story is not a testament to flawlessness, but to unwavering commitment, to showing up during the most difficult times, and to holding firm when every instinct urges surrender. Keith often reflects not on his Grammy Awards or chart-topping hits, but on tranquil mornings spent preparing breakfast for his daughters, on leisurely strolls with Nicole through the picturesque countryside, and on the simple comfort of a hand held at precisely the right moment. It was in these quiet spaces that he discovered his true redemption, not in the clamor of applause, but in the serenity of being genuinely recognized and cherished. Nicole once remarked in an interview, "I married the man I believed in, not the man everyone else perceived." And that steadfast, quiet conviction carried Keith through challenges that nearly shattered him. They have navigated fame, loss, relapse, and renewal. Yet, through every trial, they consistently reaffirmed their choice of each other. Today, their home is embodied not only with music and cherished memories, but also with a deep sense of peace. And perhaps the most potent music he has ever created was not an album or a hit single. It was the life he painstakingly reconstructed with her, note by note, day by day, characterized by honesty, by pain, and by a love that refused to let him falter. This transition opened him to an even broader viewership, highlighting not only his musical proficiency, but also his inherent kindness, sharp wit, and profound compassion for emerging talent. Despite achieving worldwide recognition, Keith remained remarkably grounded. In subsequent interviews, he candidly discussed the surreal nature of stardom, explaining how one could be enveloped by spotlights, cameras, and adoring crowds, yet still feel like that uncertain youngster from Kabul, striving to validate his existence. Their meeting was not merely a romantic encounter, it was a spiritual awakening, marking the commencement of his profound transformation. While the world observed a celebrated couple falling in love, few understood that behind the scenes, Nicole was fighting for Keith's very life. And Keith, feeling broken and ashamed, yet deeply touched, finally reached for the unwavering hand extended to him. What unfolded transcended a simple marriage. It signified a complete rebirth. They first encountered each other in January of 2005 at a Hollywood gala, an event bustling with celebrities and the constant flash of cameras. Yet, amidst all the glitz and glamour, Keith could only recall one singular presence: Nicole. For Keith, it wasn't love at first sight. It was something far more profound, an undeniable magnetism. Nicole Kidman perceived beyond the fame, the music, and the public persona. She recognized the vulnerable man still in the process of healing. Keith would later confess that he waited 4 months before contacting her, immobilized by a potent mix of awe. Their union was not just a romantic engagement, it was a spiritual awakening, the dawn of his redemption. While the world witnessed a glamorous pair falling in love, few were aware that behind the scenes, Nicole was engaged in a battle for his life, and Keith, shattered, mortified, yet profoundly moved, eventually grasped the hand that persistently offered support. What followed was more than a marital bond. It was a resurgence. They first crossed paths in January of 2005 at a Hollywood event, an occasion teeming with stars and flashing cameras. But amidst all the dazzling spectacle, Keith distinctly remembers only one presence: Nicole. For Keith, it wasn't love at first glance, but rather something more profound, an intrinsic pull. Nicole Kidman saw through the celebrity, the melodies, the persona. She perceived the wounded individual still seeking to mend. Keith later admitted that he delayed contacting her for 4 months, immobilized by a combination of reverence and self-doubt. Their bond flourished away from public attention, growing in quietude and depth. In a ceremony illuminated by candlelight in Sydney on June 25, 2006, they were wed. The world perceived it as a fairy tale, but for Keith, it was a vital lifeline. This new beginning was not devoid of challenges. Merely 4 months into their marriage, Keith succumbed to a relapse. The inner demons he had so skillfully concealed resurfaced. The man who had stood before thousands on stage found himself consumed by isolation. In a brave act of devotion, Nicole initiated an intervention. She enlisted close friends, consulted with specialists in addiction, and confronted Keith with unyielding compassion. She emphasized that her actions were not about control, but about ensuring his survival. He sought treatment at the Betty Ford Center in October of 2006. This time, however, a significant difference was evident. He was not merely undertaking this for himself. He was doing it for the woman who refused to abandon him and for the prospect of forging a life he had previously believed impossible. In later interviews, Keith described that period as a spiritual reawakening. "I truly began living when I married her," he stated. And those words were no exaggeration. Recovery imparted clarity. Clarity provided purpose, and purpose guided transformation. In 2008, they welcomed their eldest daughter, Sunday Rose, whose birth Keith declared the most humbling moment of his existence. Faith Margaret followed in 2010, born via a surrogate. Fatherhood instilled in him a sense of grounding. The urge to escape emotional pain through music or substances no longer held sway. His focus shifted to being present, to extending love, and to embodying the man he had observed his own father fail to become. Nicole, a celebrated figure in her own right, stood by his side not only as his wife but as a fellow survivor who had faced his most profound battles with him. She did not rescue him. She shared the ordeal with him until he discovered the strength to extricate himself. Their love story is not characterized by perfection, but by perseverance, by showing up when circumstances are most arduous, and by holding firm when every inclination is to concede. Keith often reflects not on the accolades of the Grammys or the success of chart-topping singles, but on the peaceful mornings spent preparing breakfast for his daughters, on leisurely excursions with Nicole through the countryside, and on the simple comfort of intertwined hands at opportune moments. It was in these quiet instances that he discovered his redemption, not within the din of applause, but in the stillness of being truly seen and loved. Nicole once shared in an interview, "I married the man I believed in, not the individual everyone else perceived." And that unwavering, quiet conviction guided Keith through tempestuous periods that nearly overwhelmed him. They have weathered fame, sorrow, relapse, and renewal. Yet, through it all, they consistently chose each other. Today, their home is filled not only with the resonance of music and cherished memories, but also with an impalpable sense of peace. And perhaps the most impactful music he has ever created was not an album or a chart-topping single. It was the life he meticulously rebuilt alongside her, note by note, day by day, with honesty, with hardship, and with a love that resolutely refused to let him succumb. Today, Keith Urban stands not merely as a survivor of his past, but as an individual who has mastered the art of achieving tranquility and equilibrium. Now in his late 50s, he divides his time between several exquisite residences situated across the globe, each one reflecting a distinct facet of his personal evolution. He shares his life with his wife, Nicole Kidman, and their two daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, cultivating a lifestyle that is rich not only in material possessions, but also in profound serenity. Whether nestled within their Nashville estate surrounded by nature, seeking refuge in their historic farmhouse in Sutton Forest, or enjoying panoramic harbor vistas from their Sydney penthouse, the Urban Kidman family has cultivated a sanctuary where privacy, simplicity, and affection are paramount. Keith's days are occupied by his musical pursuits, mindfulness practices, and moments of quiet contentment. He continues to release music that mirrors his maturation and inner clarity, exemplified by his 2024 album, High, a collection brimming with introspection and emotional depth. Tracks such as Straight Line and his duet with Lainey Wilson, Go Home W, showcase an artist who remains innovative, creative, and deeply connected with audiences worldwide. He maintains an active presence in the music industry, not only through live performances, but also by mentoring aspiring artists and frequently participating in industry events, charitable concerts, and televised specials. His dedication to his craft has not diminished. If anything, it has deepened. Financially, Keith has transformed his artistic talents into a lasting legacy. His estimated net worth in 2025 stands at $75 million. Together with Nicole Kidman, their combined wealth is estimated to surpass $250 million, cementing their status as one of the most influential and financially robust power couples within the entertainment sphere. This figure reflects over 2 decades of unwavering success. His record sales have exceeded 20 million units globally, and his tenure as a judge on American Idol netted him $5 million per season. In 2013, he shrewdly diversified his ventures by introducing a line of guitars and accompanying accessories through the Home Shopping Network, an enterprise that achieved sales of over 42,000 units in a mere 6 months. Yet his personal lifestyle remains down to earth. Keith has a fondness for Italian cuisine, frequently preparing meals with his daughters or sharing family dinners at their residence. He dedicates time to daily workouts in his private gym, practices regular meditation, and finds solace in painting, which he refers to as a meditative art form. He completely abstains from alcohol and any stimulating substances, upholding his long-standing commitment to sobriety with quiet discipline. His spiritual life is characterized by profound gratitude and introspection, often involving journaling and revisiting handwritten song lyrics and mementos from his formative years. The properties he owns are more than mere real estate. They are personal sanctuaries. In addition to his primary residence in Nashville, he possesses a $39 million mansion situated on New York's Upper East Side, reportedly intended as a gift for Nicole. Their 3-unit joint residence in Milson Point, Sydney, offers breathtaking panoramic views of the harbor and serves as a cherished reminder of their shared Australian heritage. The couple's apartments in Chelsea and Tribeca, New York, provide elegant urban havens, while their 110-acre estate in Sutton Forest, nestled in rural Australia, functions as a retreat for escape, healing, and rejuvenation. Keith's deep connection to the natural world and his appreciation for simplicity are evident in his chosen way of life. Never ostentatious, always meaningful. Despite their considerable fame, the couple places great importance on philanthropy. In early 2025, Keith's devoted fan base donated over 1,200 stuffed animals to children's hospitals in his name, continuing a tradition inspired by his own charitable spirit. Keith also lends his support to organizations such as the Nashville Food Project and Thistle Farms, demonstrating his commitment to uplifting others as he progresses in his own career. His well-being, both physically and emotionally, has never been stronger. He is clean, clear-headed, and content. He embodies the rare blend of celebrity status and genuine humility. He no longer avoids his past struggles, but embraces them as an integral part of his authentic self. This truth informs every musical note he plays, every lyric he crafts. The Keith Urban of today is not merely a country music icon. He is a man who has found inner peace. He is a devoted father who tucks his daughters into bed, a husband who still gazes at Nicole with the same awe he felt on the very day they first met, an artist who no longer pursues the spotlight but allows the music to flow naturally. In a world that often amplifies superficial noise, Keith Urban has discovered profound beauty in moments of quietude. And within that stillness, his enduring legacy continues to resonate with ever-increasing power. He is more than just a country icon. He is a testament to resilience, a melody of healing, and a silent rebellion against despair. If his life story has resonated with you, touching something profound within, we encourage you to honor his remarkable journey. Please leave a like, subscribe to our channel, and help his legacy reach even wider audiences. Because Keith Urban's narrative is not solely about music, it's a powerful illustration of what it truly means to live life to its fullest and to triumph over adversity.